Hi there, it's me once again, your facilitator Wilson, and I'm just too excited once again to come to your home via these online or e-learning lessons. And on these notes, I encourage you to stay glued to your device, be it a laptop, be it your desktop, your smartphone, or any device that you think is applicable for this lesson. And today we are going to learn a few stuff in mathematics or numeracy. So I encourage you or I entreat you to stay glued to your device as we press on and acquire some knowledge regarding the lesson. So before we delve into the main lesson, I'd like us to watch a brief video. It's a starter, okay? I want you to just have a gist about what we will be learning, okay? So please watch this short video and stay tuned as we continue with the lesson.
Sphere, cylinder, pyramid, cube, cone.
They're all 3D shapes.
There are many places to find a sphere, like if a tennis ball happens to roll near. You can shoot a sphere playing basketball, and you see one in the sky when the moonlight falls. Planets are spheres, whether red or blue. The bearings and machines are tiny spheres too. Marbles are spheres that roll around. Spheres are exercise balls that bounce up and down. Spheres are shapes that are perfectly round, like balls that tend to roll along the ground.
Let's go!
Sphere, cylinder, pyramid, cube, cone. Singing through the megaphone. Sphere, cylinder, pyramid, cube, cone. Singing through the megaphone. Sphere, cylinder, pyramid, cube, cone. All 3D shapes.
3D shapes.
One kitchen cylinder is a soup can. They look the same from New York to Japan. Pens can be cylinders we use every day. Power poles are cylinders that bring power our way. Toilet paper rolls are cylinders too, if the missing bases are added by you. Some jars might be cylinders as well. When it comes to straws, it can be hard to tell. Cylinders have two circular bases that are congruent parallel faces.
Let's go!
Sphere, cylinder, pyramid, cube, cone. Singing through the megaphone. Sphere, cylinder, pyramid, cube, cone. Singing through the megaphone. Sphere, cylinder, pyramid, cube, cone. All 3D shapes.
3D shapes.
The Egyptian pyramids stand very tall. Closed umbrellas look like pyramids before rainfall. Trees can look like pyramids touching the sky. A pyramid block of cheese, give it a try. Some house rooftops are pyramids too, and some perfume bottles with scents that are new. Pyramid-shaped paperweights on a desk, looking their best as they stand so picturesque. With the base and apex and faces, pyramids are found in the most wondrous places.
Let's go!
Sphere, cylinder, pyramid, cube, cone. Singing through the megaphone. Sphere, cylinder, pyramid, cube, cone. Singing through the megaphone. Sphere, cylinder, pyramid, cube, cone. All 3D shapes.
3D shapes.
If you roll dice, then you roll cubes. Pirate crystal cubes can be grown in tubes. Blocks are cubes, much of the time. Clocks can be cubes, making hourly chimes. A box in the mail might be a cube shape. Ice cubes can cool your ice cream shake. Some cube containers store food in the fridge, and some concrete cubes can hold up a bridge. Faces of a cube are all a square, so we can spot them almost anywhere.
Let's go!
Sphere, cylinder, pyramid, cube, cone. Singing through the megaphone. Sphere, cylinder, pyramid, cube, cone. Singing through the megaphone. Sphere, cylinder, pyramid, cube, cone. All 3D shapes.
3D shapes.
Waffle cones can hold vanilla ice cream. Hats on witches are cones that might make you scream. Orange cones can show dangers in the road. Teepees are cones that make a great abode. Castle turrets are cones to watch outside. A flashlight's cone of light is a great night guide. Cone-shaped cups may hold something to eat. Some shoes look like cones when they're on your feet. With a circular base and a pointy vertex, cones are always a favorite 3D object.
Let's go!
Sphere, cylinder, pyramid, cube, cone. Singing through the megaphone. Sphere, cylinder, pyramid, cube, cone. Singing through the megaphone. Sphere, cylinder, pyramid, cube, cone.
numberrock.com for exclusive content, lesson materials, and more. Thanks for watching.
Alright, so I believe you really enjoyed that video, and I hope you were contemplating on how you were able to get the topic or what you are going to learn for today under mathematics or numeracy. So on your screen, as you can see, our strand is geometry and measurement, and our substrand is three-dimensional shapes. So our central idea regarding the lesson is three-dimensional shapes. Okay, so on the screen too you can see different solid shapes or solid figures on the board. So let's quickly look at the objectives regarding today's lesson. The objectives for today's lesson. Alright, so let's quickly look at the objectives regarding today's lesson. So by the end of today's lesson, you will be able to define a three-dimensional shape, 2, identify at least 4 examples of 3D shapes or three-dimensional shapes, and the third one is identify objects that are in the form of 3D shapes or that have the form of 3D shapes. When you look around your homes or your community or your vicinity, you have different objects that are in the form of 3D shapes. So as we progress with the lesson, we are going to identify the shapes and identify objects that are in the form of three-dimensional shapes. So before we move on to the definition and the objectives that we are craving to achieve by the end of the lesson, let's quickly look at some words or some keywords that we will definitely come across as the lesson progresses. We have shapes, solid, dimension, measurement, cylinder, cuboid, sphere, cone, object, prism. Alright, so we're going to take it one more time, and this round I would like you to say it after me, okay? Shapes, solid, dimension, measurement, cylinder, cuboid, sphere, cone, object, prism. That's good. Well done. So I also encourage you, you can perhaps pause the video and try to go through the keywords one more time by yourself and make sure that you spell them and be very, very competent with them, okay? Alright, so let's look at the first objective of our lesson, that is the definition of a three-dimensional shape. And when we talk about a three-dimensional shape or a three-dimensional solid figure, what really comes to mind? Now, on this note, I will be very grateful if you pause the video, you get a book and a pen or any writing device. Try to define a three-dimensional shape in your own understanding, or perhaps in your opinion, what do you think a three-dimensional shape is? Thank you very much. Now, when you watch the screen, a three-dimensional shape or a 3D shape is any shape or solid figure that has 3 dimensions of measurement, and these dimensions comprises the length, the width, or the breadth. Okay, the width is the same as the breadth, and the height. Okay, it comprises the length, the width, the breadth, and height. Now, when you take a close look at the 2 shapes on the board, okay, those are perhaps, so as you watched the video earlier, I believe you came across plane figures in this form. Okay, those are examples of 3D or three-dimensional shapes. Okay, we have a triangular prism and a cuboid. Okay, the triangular prism is the one on top, and the cuboid is beneath. Okay, the cuboid or a rectangular prism. Now, when you take a close look at those 2 shapes, okay, more especially the triangular prism, the one on top, you could realize that it has a level. Okay, it has three sides or dimensions. We have the length, we have the length on top, we have the height, and then what? The breadth. Okay, the breadth. We have the length, height, and then what? The breadth. So I believe you are clear with it. So let's quickly move on to examples of three-dimensional shapes. Okay, let's identify three-dimensional shapes or solid figures. Alright, so let's quickly look at the examples of three-dimensional shapes or 3D shapes. Okay. Alright, so as you can see on the board, these are just a few of them. We have quite a number of 3D shapes or three-dimensional shapes. So we have the cube, the cone, the sphere, we have the cylinder, cuboid, or the rectangular prism, okay, and then the pyramid. And when it's the prism, for instance, we have hexagonal prism, heptagonal prism, and the likes. All those objects or shapes can be in the form of 3D or in three-dimensional shapes. You understand? So let's quickly move on to the objects that are in the form of three-dimensional shapes. Okay. Now, when you look around your vicinity, your community, or wherever you are, your home, okay, you may see objects that are in this form. So I'll be very grateful once again if you pause the video at this moment and try to figure out or write down, get a book and a paper, write down objects that are in the form of a cube, in the form of a cone, a sphere, a cylinder, a cuboid, a pyramid, or a triangular prism. Okay, so as we move on and progress with the lesson, we're going to look at or identify these objects and try to compare them with yours, or whether you've been able to get what is next for you to see, or the objects, whether you've been able to carry them. Okay, good. Alright, so look on the screen for yourself, and I believe you can see some objects on the screen. Okay, you can see a cup, you can see a dry cell. Okay, that's a dry cell, it's only one, a dry cell when it's two is a battery. Okay, we have a present or a parcel nicely designed. We have the globe, we have the Ludo die, okay, the dies, and we have the briefcase, we have the cone, we have the ice cube and cheese, we have cylinder, we have the basketball. The basketball, actually, my name is on it, but please, that is brand, okay? Actually, that I didn't type that on the board per se. We have ice cream, we have the football, as well as diamond. Okay. Now we're going to look at the how do you call it, the objects on the screen. Now the cup, for instance, looks like what? Code. It looks like what? A cylinder. Okay, the form of a cylinder. And the battery too also looks like a cylinder. And then we have the cylinder glass as you normally use in various homes. Now we look at the present, the green one. Okay, the parcel. It looks like what? A rectangular prism. That's a rectangular prism. We have a quite number of them. The briefcase is also an example of what? A rectangular prism. That is, so all these are objects that are in the form of what? 3D shapes or three-dimensional shapes. We have the Ludo dice, that is in the form of what? A cube. In the form of a cube. We have the ball, okay, basketball, and the football in the form of a sphere. Alright, so on these notes, we are going to watch another video, okay, a brief one, of course, for you to also identify objects in the form of three-dimensional shapes. Enjoy the video.
I'm a 3D shape expert.
Here are the 3D shapes that I know. A sphere, a cylinder, a cube, and a cone. A baseball, the moon, and an orange I have right here are all examples of a 3D shape that people call a sphere. A basketball, the earth, and marbles I have here are all examples of a 3D shape that people call a sphere. Here are the 3D shapes that I know: a sphere, a cylinder, a cube, and a cone. A soda can, a pencil shaft, and a can of soup would be examples of a cylinder, as you can plainly see. A marker, a glass of milk, and a peanut butter jar are all examples of a cylinder. Yes, I'm sure they are. Here are the 3D shapes that I know: a sphere, a cylinder, a cube, and a cone. An ice cube, a cardboard box, and a Christmas present for you are all examples of a 3D shape that people call a cube. My little dice, a sugar cube, and blocks that I use are all examples of a 3D shape that people call a cube. Here are the 3D shapes that I know: a sphere, a cylinder, a cube, and a cone. An ice cream cone, a pencil tip, and a megaphone are all examples of a 3D shape that people call a cone. A birthday hat, a traffic cone, or a funnel in my home are all examples of a 3D shape that people call a cone. Here are the 3D shapes that I know: a sphere, a cylinder, a cube, and a cone. A paperweight, Egyptian pyramids, and some tents would be examples of a pyramid, as you can plainly see. Here are the 3D shapes that I know: a sphere, a cylinder, a cube, and a cone.
Right, that was so awesome. I believe you really enjoyed it. So we have come to the end of our lesson, and I hope we've been able to achieve our objective, what we are craving for, what we are really yearning to end or to achieve by the end of the lesson. Yes, the first one was the definition of a 3D shape, and the second one was for us to identify at least 4 examples of 3-dimensional shapes, and the third one was identify objects that are in the form of 3-dimensional shapes. Okay, so as you can see, we said a 3D shape is any shape that has 3 dimensions or measurement. Okay, and we as well look at the examples of 3D shapes: cube, cone, sphere, pyramid, rectangular prism, triangular prism, and the like. Okay, and then we made mention of objects that are in the form of 3D shapes. So I hope you have really learned a lot. So I wish you all the very best of luck, and I pray that you also take the bold step to as well grow or to as well search for more of these 3D shapes. And I believe they are going to be imparted a lot. Okay, so I wish you the very best. Stay tuned. Bye.